One of the surprising stories in the past year concerned the major financial problems experienced by the YMCA of Marquette County. With the new year here, the organization is working to put those issues behind them. We'll find out more about that starting right now.
From TV6, this is the Ryan Report. Now here's your host, Don Ryan.
Our guest this morning is Jenna. Jenna was asked to step up when the Marquette County YMCA experienced very serious financial problems last year, and she was named as the interim replacement for the former CEO, who was placed on administrative leave and subsequently left the organization. At the time, the problems were so serious, the Y was in danger of going under. Since then, she's provided leadership and worked with others to get it back on track, a process that's continuing today. Our purpose this morning is not to point fingers, but to understand what happened and what it has done and is continuing to do to get the organization moving forward. Jenna, welcome to the Ryan Report.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we talk about the Y and some of its issues, let's get to know more about you. I think you might be a Youper by birth.
Actually, I was born in California.
California, but you grew up.
Yes, but I've been in the UP since I was 11 years old, so most of my life.
I saw where you lived in Kingsford at some point?
Yes, I graduated from Kingsford High School and came to Northern to run cross country.
Okay. And you actually got your degree at Northern, and I think it was in community health?
Correct, yes. I got my degree in community health education and started working at the Y in 1999 when I was obtaining my degree, and my first job at the Y was in the Wellness Center at the Negaunee Y at the West End Y.
And so you say you were on the, you actually went to Northern to be part of their running team?
Yes, I was on the cross-country running team for 3 years before a few ankle surgeries, and I worked at the Y during that time, and had a great experience volunteering, interning, and working at the Y. And
so your interest in really what you were doing, tell us first of all, what was your assignment at the Y before this all happened?
I've been at the health and fitness director for the last, my first 14 years at the Y, once I became a manager.
So you've continued that interest in fitness and running and healthy lifestyles.
Yes, exactly. We got into more health innovations or chronic disease programs, and so my position has definitely changed over the years. More administration, obviously, before this, but I think I was able to go to a lot of certifications and learn a lot before being in this current position.
Let's start by talking about how the Y started.
Okay.
And I think it goes back probably to the late 80s, early 90s?
Yes, that's correct. So in 1990, there was a group of, I think, young boys who actually flooded a couple stores in the small mini mall on 3rd Street there. And so a couple leaders in our community, including Michelle Butler, said, this community needs a YMCA. I grew up with a Y, and these kids need somewhere to go. We have to give something for children to do in Marquette. And so they started meeting a group of individuals, leaders, at the Village Cafe, I think once a week at 7 a.m. for years, to try to figure out how to start a YMCA and to start fundraising and who the right people were to be in that spot. So it's really neat that that's really what the Y is. It's for anyone, but it started for a place for kids to go. And
that's no small undertaking, because really to have a Y you have to have a facility.
Yes, exactly. And it started storefront for a couple years. So we had, aerobics over in Lakeview Arena, and we did swim lessons, I think, in the Holiday and Ramada Inn. So while they were fundraising, the Y, started doing certain programs just out of one little office and with our community.
Let's talk about what happened. Now, I have to tell you, as someone looking in from the outside, not being involved in the administration of the Y, the Y appeared to be one of the most successful nonprofit organizations in the area. I may not get these all or get them in the right sequence, but I know you opened a new West End facility, obviously involved cost there.
Yes.
Major expansion at the Y building in Marquette. They purchased a commercial building where they housed the child development.
Correct.
And they actually had a contract to do something at the Phelps School in Ishpeming.
Correct.
It looks like a lot of positive things going on. Would it be fair to say that growth is really kind of what helped to bring the Y down?
That would be fair. That all happened in 1 year in 2014. And so, I think there were definitely some missteps there, and there could have been probably more fundraising and just different decisions that could have been made for a more financial, secure YMCA to be able to have that growth in 1 year.
Or did they perhaps bite off more than they could chew at that point in terms of expanding so rapidly?
Yes, I mean, I think for a Y in Marquette in our community, it was a lot for 1 year. And I think that got us to where, unfortunately, we are today.
How did it all come to a head? Not able to pay the bills? And I know you weren't the CEO at that time, so
sure,
I'm not laying this in your discretion.
You know, there's a lot of pieces to it. It's quite complicated, although basically in March, you know, our accounts payable was close to $400,000. And at that time, we were supposed to open the child care in Ishpeming, and just knew that that wasn't going to be possible. And so the board really looked very hard at numbers and kind of everything happening, and that's kind of how it all came to a head. You know, there was a lot of discovery right away, and what we had to do was our own reorganization. I mean, we kind of did our own internal Chapter 11.
They asked the existing CEO to step aside.
Correct.
You were asked to take over that assignment. How did you feel about that?
Yes. Well, I had a bit mixed feelings, of course, but I have to say, the Y is my family. I've grown up there, and it means everything to me. And so I wanted to do everything possible to try to save it. And I knew that it was at that point that it had to be saved. I mean, there were many days in March and April that I thought the doors could be shut. It was a very scary time for us. And my heart I said, I have to do what I can do. Which, you know, there was a lot of people in the community that helped, a lot of leaders, YMCA of the USA, our board, our founding board members who called themselves Friends of the Y, the staff, our current members, and the community stepped up so much, and I wasn't sure that was going to happen. I think that was one of the scariest things for me, was to not know if the community was going to support us, and they did, and I'm so fortunate for that.
We'll talk about that in more detail in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. We're talking today with Jenna Zadunik about the YMCA in Marquette County. You listed some of the things that were done. Let's get more specifically.
Sure.
The things that have happened since this crisis developed. What were some of the concrete steps you had to take?
So we took a lot of steps, and I think the first one for me was building relationships back up, because I knew that we had to be honest and transparent, and I knew I had to answer the phone even though it wasn't going to be a good conversation, and that people were angry, and that I had to apologize for, you know, on behalf of the Y. And I had to keep my door open, and you know, if people were mad, I had to just get a tough skin and really take it in and apologize. And so I did a lot of that, amending.
And some of these were people who you owed a lot of money to, right?
They were people that gave us grants. They were, you know, other boards, other nonprofits. And so, you know, some people were upset that we may have competed with them, which is something that we definitely do not want to do in the future. You know, the Y is supposed to meet the needs of the community, and that's something we have to get back to, is the basics, the mission, the values of the Y, and what a YMCA should be in our community. So building the relationships was one of the highest priorities for me, and just kind of apologizing and meeting with whoever wanted to meet with me. We also had to decrease our payroll. We decreased our payroll 36%. So that was one of the very first things that happened, because we knew we couldn't afford the high payroll that we had. We also...
And this mainly involved laying some people off, reducing staff?
It did, unfortunately, yes. It did. And I think, you know, one of the things is that our YMCA had a lot of positions that, you know, a lot of small Ys do not have. And so we kind of had to get back to the basic positions that a Y our size in a community like ours would have, which is where we are at now. The other thing we did is we just tried to decrease our expenses any way we possibly could. So the management team was amazing, and we met for hours and hours and hours, and we did a cost analysis on every program we do. And we tried to figure out, is this mission? Do we need this program in our community? You know, is there someone else out there that's doing it better? And there were. We were also doing things not in our community. We were doing things in Houghton and Baraga and not in Marquette County. So those were the, you know, first to go. And our resource director from YMCA of the USA really helped me through that. We did a new cost study. We talked about, you know, programs that we should have, programs that were losing money. So if it wasn't mission-based and it wasn't a program that was at least breaking even, we cut it. We had to. And if it wasn't in our county. The other thing was if we had $5 to pay someone, we would pay them $5. So, you know, there are some businesses, local businesses, that would give $5 or $10 or $20 to every week. And just, we tried to do the best we could do. You know, at the time, our bankruptcy attorney, who we had hired very early on, was telling us not to pay anyone. We did go against that, and we were trying to pay everyone, every penny that we possibly could. Because we didn't want to hurt any local businesses or any businesses that had really helped us the last, you know, couple decades of being a Y. And so we didn't want to take anyone down that was, you know, our friend and our family. Sure. You know, our payroll now, it was almost $400,000 in March. It's now down to $44,000. Wow. So, and that's with the community. That's local businesses taking concessions, you know, getting banners and writing some off their bill. It's really been, you know, the couple events we've had. We've done some adopt a debt boards, and really it's our members in our community that have really stepped up to support us, which is just amazing.
You mentioned the National Y organization. They have been helpful too, haven't they, as a resource?
They have. Our resource director has been here multiple times, and you know, really every day, if there's anything I need, I can call YUSA in a different, you know, whatever department in Chicago and ask them, and they've been very supportive. They have a lot of resources, and right now they're helping us through kind of reset. They call it, you know, pressing the reset button. So, you know, we reset leadership. We have a new board of 17 amazing individuals that'll be starting January 2nd officially, and we're going to go back to our bylaws and board governance and committees. You know, having the 5 committees that we should have in our community, and so we're really going back to what a Y should look like and how a Y really should be run.
Okay. Before we get too far down that trail,
yes.
When this started, I believe the debt was something like $5.8 million.
Correct.
So you still have a big chunk of that debt to deal with, don't you?
We do. Yes, we have over $4 million in debt still, and of course $3 million of that is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, and they have been great. You know, again, it's communicating and relationships, and so right now, we send them our finance meeting minutes packet, and I send them a report every month, just like I send a YMCA of the USA and a couple other people. And so they want us to pay everyone before we pay them.
There was a hope that maybe they'd say, forget us.
There was a hope. We thought we'd try. We thought we'd try and we'd ask, because if you don't ask, then you don't know. And so, but they've been working with us, and I really do have hope that they will continue to work with us over the years. They don't want the Y to not be in Marquette. I mean, they want to do everything they can do. So I really feel confident that that relationship will be okay.
Okay. Got a few more questions. We'll get to those in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. Once again, our guest this morning is Jenna Zadunik from the YMCA of Marquette County, the interim executive director. And that's something that's still to be determined as far as your responsibilities going forward. It's both the Y decision and your decision to make.
Correct, yeah, and I think that'll be decided in January. I can be the interim for a full year, so really we have until March to really decide, but that decision will be made between the new board and myself in January. I do have all the certifications through YMCA of the USA to take the position. Just want to make sure it's the best thing for everyone involved. Yes.
And you do have a great board now.
Yes.
A lot of people who were there in the beginning are coming back to help out at least for a while.
I am so fortunate, and YMCA of the USA really helped with that. And so, you know, again, pressing that reset button, and the founding and former board members that have come back to help, that want to do everything they can to make sure that our Y, you know, is healthy again and strong, and to make sure our Y is in our community, because we need a Y. The Y does so much, and so for all those 17 people that are willing to take this on, because of course we've made amazing strides. We've had a lot of successes, but we still have a lot of challenges, and there's still challenges ahead of us. And so for those people to, you know, volunteer and to do this, and especially those founding and former board members, it's really amazing. Michelle Butler was our founding board member, and so she will, our founding president, and she'll be our president. She's our president now as well. So that's amazing that she's coming back to do everything she can to make sure our Y is in our community forever.
I know how committed she is. I can recall when the early drive was going on and I was with Cliffs Natural Resources.
Yes.
she was adamant about getting a contribution from our organization, and we were pleased to be able to do it at that point.
Yes.
You know, before we, you know, I read this, and you actually said part of it already, a comment about how you feel about the Y, that you didn't grow up with a Y, but once you kind of found the Y, you never wanted to leave. And I think you said you also met your husband at the Y and watched your kids grow up there. So
Yes.
this really is important to you.
It is so important to me, and I want my grandkids and great-grandkids to have a YMCA in Marquette County. And yes, my mother-in-law set my husband and I up at the Y, otherwise I probably wouldn't have never met him. And I went into labor with my firstborn at the Y. So
Really?
I mean, my heart is there, and you know, my kids are there, and so I'm really willing to do everything it's going to take to make sure the Y survives and it's healthy and it's strong, and we go back to that mission and our values, and we're honest with everyone and we do things right. I mean, that's very important to me, and I'm just so proud of our community for doing everything they've done the last 9 months, and there's going to be a lot of work to do, and I just am so excited, I guess, for the community to all get together, and the local businesses that have stepped up, and community members and leaders, and you know, I think when we all work together, we will save the YMCA.
We don't have time in the couple of minutes left to tell everything the Y does, but for those who aren't familiar with the Y, just kind of an overview of what goes on.
Of course, there's so much, you know, and of course, we've made so much impact in the community, and the Y is so much more than a swim and gym. You know, you hear that sometimes, oh, it's just a swim and gym. Well, yes, it is a gym, and we do have swim lessons, and you can go swim in there, but, you know, we help cancer survivors. Over 60 cancer survivors a year take part in our Livestrong program. We feed a lot of children out in KI Sawyer at our child care program. We give free before and after school out in KI. We, you know, have the Child Watch, the only program in the only, you know, fitness facility in Marquette that a mom can bring her kids if she's a stay-at-home mom, or you know, to be able to have stress relief. We have so many community partners. You know, the Women's Center, the residents there, and the children can come for free and exercise and get healthy. You know, we have karate and swim lessons and gymnastics, and we have a diabetes program, an Alzheimer's program. I mean, really, there's a program for everyone from 6 weeks till, I think our oldest member is 101 years old.
Really?
So, I mean, it's really for anyone to, you know, spirit, mind, and body is kind of how the Y began. And so I think that's really important to think about, in those Christian principles, and that, again, we're supposed to be fulfilling that need in our community. So the Y is just so much more than I think people realize, and we want to try to help our community be the healthiest it can be, mentally and physically.
And even with the cutbacks in staff and in other areas, you've been able to maintain most of the programs?
We have. I mean, a lot of members have walked in and said, gosh, I haven't really noticed any changes. And I said, oh, good, because we don't, you know, we want to make sure that we wouldn't be there without our members. I mean, the Y is here for our community and those members, and so we want to try to make sure that we're not making too many drastic changes, which we didn't have to do. I mean, thank goodness we were able to decrease our payroll, decrease expenses, and build those relationships and work with our creditors, and it really didn't impact our members very much at all. So we're very proud of that.
I know it's been a tough year, but you have great support, and you've done a great job stepping up. And thanks for coming in this morning and sharing the story with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I'll be back with some other thoughts for you after we take one more break. When I first introduced this segment of the show almost 2 years ago, I thought it would be fun to come up with a closing thought each week that could add a little humor or introspection to the show. And it has been fun, although I must admit it seems to get more difficult each week to come up with a new idea. So this week, let me share with you some ideas that didn't really pan out, not because they didn't have some merit, but because they didn't provide enough content to fill the time available. For example, the other day I happened to glance at that label that's sewn into clothing to tell you the size and other pertinent information about that piece of wearing apparel. Well, it just so happens that in this particular piece of clothing, it described the garment as trousers. Trousers? Does anybody call men's pants trousers anymore? Perhaps a few people who have been around for a while. I hesitate to call them old-timers. Perhaps they might, but I doubt that many young people do. It just seems like one of those words that's no longer in fashion. Put on your trousers. Or how about this? Have you heard about the cloud? Cloud computing is everywhere. Individuals, businesses, organizations are all storing computer data in the cloud. You may be storing some of your pictures or videos in the cloud. Where is the cloud? Are we in the cloud? Or are we just in the fog? To me, the cloud is one of the greatest marketing images ever. It has such a nice feel to it. I'm storing my photos in the cloud. They're safe in the cloud. It's such a wonderful place. I hate to be one of the people to spoil that image for you, but of course the cloud is not some beautiful place in the sky. It's really just the internet, or more specifically on some computer servers in a high-tech industrial facility. For those who are disappointed by that information, I should point out that the cloud does provide some genuine benefits. It saves space on your computer's hard drive and provides a pretty safe and secure backup for things that have special meaning to you. But yet, it's not like that cloud in the sky. And finally, let's talk about vegetables. A lot of kids have a problem with vegetables, especially some vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, or Brussels sprouts. Some would rather go hungry than be forced to sink their teeth into a Brussels sprout. I was no exception, but as I got older, I learned to like them, and broccoli too. I think a lot of other people have the same experience as they become adults. So I like them. But my issue is this: why do they have to smell so bad when you cook them? I mean, I walk in the house and I'm immediately hit with that awful smell, which tells me that broccoli is cooking on the stove. In the interest of full disclosure, I should tell you that I still haven't learned to like cauliflower. Probably never will. To me, it tastes like I think dirty gym socks might taste. Not that I've ever tried them. I'll be back in 2 minutes. We're just about out of time for another Sunday. The Today Show is anxious to get started. There is time to remind you that a great source for news anytime is uppermichigansource.com. You can also check out this show at that same location. The most recent edition is usually available starting on Monday afternoon. The YMCA is a champion for healthy living, and in Marquette County, the Y is making progress in restoring their finances to good health. Thanks to Jenna for coming in this morning to provide an update on the progress being made, and thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.